welcome to Strangers Stopping Strangers. This is the podcast number 18. A big welcome back to anyone who's returning. Anna, thanks for stopping in to anybody who's new this week. So this week, my guest is somebody who's really quite infamous in the deadhead world of Twitter. I had the pleasure of talking to and getting to know Fat Man That Rocks, aka Dave the Lawyer. So it was so fun getting to meet him because he really has become a Twitter inspiration. Every day, just the coolest stuff that's just put out there to put a smile on everyone's face. So I reached out and he was down with the podcast. So this is a little look behind the curtain on Fat Man That Rocks, his story, and what led him to this day. So it's a lot of fun. We start off with his first show and really go through the late 80s. We do a couple birthday shows and wind up in Las Vegas in 1991. So I hope everybody enjoys. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks. Well, hey, Dave, thank you so much for joining Strangers Stopping Strangers.
Right on. Thanks for having me, Staci.
Well, I've been so excited to actually talk to you because I have been following you along with many other people on Twitter. So I want to talk about how your experiences with the dead and the music, but tell us a little bit about that first, just to get familiar.
For a long time, I was on Twitter just as myself, for lack of a better term. Just following for news and breaking stuff that I didn't really like Facebook that much, and got on there, and then just kind of had a epiphany one day to do like a tribute site, just to see if it would get up and off the ground, and have had really good responses from people over the last few years. I think it was 2012 that I started with the Jerry Fat Man Rocks account, and just started posting stuff that if I was scrolling Twitter, it would make me smile, and just try to keep it positive and share what I love about the best rock and roll band in the land.
Well, it's so awesome. Yeah, Fat Man That Rocks. I mean, you really are. I mean, yeah, you're kind of what sucked me in, and you've been an inspiration for me because, there's so much stuff out there in the world to be able to see something that makes you smile every day.
Right. There's plenty of bitching. There's plenty of negatives out there. I don't need to add to that, So it's nice.
Well, you're not.
And I try and not keep it personal. I just I put out stuff that relates to the band, no personal opinions or politics or any kind of divisive anything. I'm just trying to keep it positive and post what makes me smile. And it seems to have that effect on other people, which is great. And that makes me feel great.
Well, at this point, I would tell all the listeners to be sure to check in on your Twitter, Fat Man That Rocks, but I would be surprised if I had a listener that isn't already following you. So that's probably, it'd be hard to reach more people via Strangers Stopping Strangers than you already have. So everybody, this is the Fat Man That Rocks that's coming to tell his behind the story. So this is awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning with the music. Tell me a little bit about how you tumbled onto into this world and some of your early experiences.
Well, it goes back to like a lot of people. It goes back to about junior high age, 13, 14 years old. Some of the kids that I looked up to in junior high and into high school were into this band called the Grateful Dead, and I thought they were cool, and I figured it must be good if I look up to them and they're listening to this band, I got to check them out. So I went out and got the Skull and Roses cassette at a record store. Some people remember such places with vinyl and cassettes and things like that back in the days. But that's what really kind of sucked me in. And then just had the good fortune of knowing enough people that had some amazing tape collections and saved up my money, got a tape recorder, and just started borrowing anything that I could get my hands on and taping off of people and just kind of soaking it all in. And back then was so big. That was probably early 80s. There was so many tapes out there. That's what everybody had. There was no archive.org. To just be able to pull up and search a date and have choices on what source to listen to is just amazing to me still, just having grown up in the vinyl and cassette eras where you had to deal with the crappy sound that you get because that's the only recording that's available at the time, and you love it anyway because it's all so good, and there's still just thousands and thousands of recordings that obviously nobody could get to them all.
But it's all about content. It's all about the content, and I agree. That was, I'm still working out the bugs and hopefully getting a little bit more of a podcast or feel on this. But I mean, the idea that content rules quality is what's made me just kind of be flying by the seat of my pants, because us deadheads, we just want to hear the good shit, and we'll tune out a little, feedback or sound quality as long as we love what we're hearing,
Right. And a little tape hiss back then was an added character. And going back to some of these recordings, it's funny because you listen to a soundboard recording of a show that you wore the cassette tape out on, just you listen to it so many times, and that was a fuzzy audience recording with some speed issues or whatever that you go back on archive and you pull it up and you get a crunchy matrix soundboard, and it's just it almost doesn't sound right, you get so used to hearing that poorly mixed or bad microphones, or the guy wasn't sitting in the right space behind the board or whatever, and you get the cheers from chatter. Right around him. Right. You hear what they're talking about at set break, and so it's nice to get those. I mean, it's obviously really nice to have full access to just a gazillion soundboard recordings these days. That's what you eventually land on nowadays is because you've got so many choices, but it was such a big thing back when I was that young that you could just go, what else you got? Can I borrow every single thing that you have? Like my big sister's friend has thousands of tapes, and you start digging in and you realize at that beginning point of listening to this band that just it's so deep, there's so many recordings that you can get into and so many differences and nuances that it's just one of those things that I'm still digging into 40 years later. It's crazy. So
it's amazing. No, it's amazing, and I love hearing everyone's stories and how they can be different, but there really is, especially people of our genre, our generation. I mean, there's such a common theme of, that early mid 80s, getting in through, and there's certainly a lot of deadheads that predate us, and thankfully there's a lot of, new people jumping on the bus now, but we're the Brent era kids, right? That Brent era generation, and I love these stories because they're close to my heart, it's just another version of, my friends and I'm another version of your friends all over the country, kind of discovering the wonders of nature down by the riverside. It's
depending on which coast you were at, it just kind of gives you a taste of, you were probably listening to more regional stuff that people you knew from West Coast, and a lot of the stuff that I was listening to was so-and-so went to this show and he's got this tape, it's awesome, or, something like that. So you kind of almost have a connection with your regional stuff because it's more familiar to you. But yeah, it's just it's such a deep subject to get into, and I don't think you could keep digging and still have undiscovered stuff 30, 40 years into your life of listening to one band with any other idea, you know. I mean, just this, like, there's so many recordings and you just don't get that with other bands.
No, I mean, there's no way this podcast could be made without any other band. I mean, there's amazing bands out there, but you couldn't pull up, you know, what went down with, you know, The Who, or what went down with the Rolling Stones in the 80s or 90s. I mean, they had some great shows and they were influential and amazing music. I mean, no shade on any other band, but they don't have the catalogs, the availability that, I mean, they were so ahead of their time, you know. Yeah, and still, you know, I mean, and with Dead and Company, like the next day you can get online and find a couple of choices of really good recordings, you know, that it's still, you know, the volume is still expanding of the wealth of music that we're luckily handed, you know, for free for the most part. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is cool. Let's listen to some music. I want to get on to the first song because I know people love to hear the chat, but we love to hear the music, and I want you to tell me a little bit about the first show, and kind of, I'll say this ahead of time, I've been doing the edited version so that the long songs are amazing, but in efforts to keep the podcast to under an hour, which this one will be over an hour, guaranteed. But this mix we couldn't break up because it's a sequence. So to anyone who does not want to hear 11 minutes of music, I'm sorry. Fast forward. We're doing the whole damn thing, and then we'll kind of trim it down. Suck it up. Hit the fast forward. Go on iTunes. Do the little arrow, and jump back out afterwards. So kind of a heads up on that. And tell me a little bit about the first show in Cincinnati.
All right. Well, we were all still pretty young in our 14s and 15s years, and luckily we had a couple of guys in our core group of friends that not only had driver's licenses, but were able to get us some just really, really great seats up in the pavilion for all of our first show. There was probably at least 5 or 6 of us that kind of made up our core that went to a lot of shows hereafter from after this, but the first one was the one that kind of hooked us all. Was an amazing show, and we were kind of too young to really even get how deep it was and how awesome and how special this night was, but comes to pass that when the band puts out 30 Trips Around the Sun, this ends up to be the 1985 piece that they picked as basically the best show of the year. So really feel lucky to have been there and have that as our first show. And it really, every bit of this show really shines. But the Criptical into drum space, into Comes a Time is just perfection. Back into Criptical is just a real smoker. It really speaks for itself. It really does, and it still stands up to this day as a smoker.
Well, I am going to play this, and actually, I will say we're not going to do the full sandwich. You're going to get a heaping half a sandwich. Yeah, we're not going to do the space and drums. Even I'm not that crazy to play space and drums on a podcast. We're not. You're going to imagine it an open face sandwich. Yeah, it's an open face sandwich. You're going to have the bread, and it's going to be piled really high. So we're going to go out of space into the Comes a Time, the other one, Criptical. And and you guys get to hear the whole thing because we just can't cut this up. So Please enjoy Dave's first live show, and then we will come back and move on down the road. So enjoy.
Comes a time
Well, we are now back from listening to that beautiful song. I hope everybody enjoyed, and we're going to go a couple years down the road to some. We're going to get onto our theme because we had a couple things we wanted to talk about, and the next show was very monumental for you. So tell me a little bit about Hartford, and that is on March 26, 1987.
Yes. Well, that spring tour was really just a lot of fun. That was the year I was graduating high school, so we were really picking up steam. We were a couple years into seeing the band, and I was lucky enough to be born on a day that is usually right in the middle of spring tour, and so my 18th birthday ended up falling on the Hartford, Connecticut show from that spring tour, which a group of us went, I want to say it was Hampton up to Hartford and then back down to Pittsburg that spring. But 18th birthday at a Grateful Dead show with some really, really good blotter and good friends. It really didn't get a whole lot better than that. I mean, I had my moments throughout the years, but that was a kind of a benchmark. And luckily for us listeners, after the show, that night was broadcast as an FM broadcast, so they had a live feed back when people listened to FM radio, us old fogies. But great recording, so we got to have that pretty much right away, obviously, because there's people out there recording it directly from the radio. Great feed, great show throughout. The set list doesn't really scream, but it was just one of those nights where everything they played, Bobby remembered all the words, Jerry remembered all the words. They just nailed it. And the Road Jimmy is. It's just one of those songs that I was always a Jerry guy, and Road Jimmy in the first set just always made me really happy. I love that song, and it really shines on this recording. So enjoy. All
right, well, let's go into doing a little Road Jimmy. We're going to go, woohoo, happy birthday. And let me ask you, is this the one that you said you can hear the whistle? You can hear yourself whistling in the background?
No, that was a couple years later. I saw him on my birthday in at the Nick in 90, spring of 90, which all those recordings are actually put out. But yeah, once in a while you can hear me whistle in the background in a couple of those recordings.
Right on. That's so cool. Well, again, it's a digital scrapbook of your life, so that's so fun. And all right, well, let's play a little Road Jimmy. So this is wishing Jerry Fatman That Rocks, aka Dave, a happy birthday here on March 26th, 1987, a banner year for the band. So
yes.
Let's take a listen. All right.
That's the time, baby, I don't
Well, welcome back from listening to Ro, Jimmy, and Hartford. And we were just chatting for a few minutes at the break about, the late 80s and what went on. So let's take it from there. We're in 87, 88. Amazing, right?
Amazing. They were really, they were picking up steam through obviously the early 80s, but yeah, I feel like they got a big push with the 20 years so far. They got a bunch of new people in listening to them because In the Dark was coming out. I guess that was 87-ish, something like that. But they were really, as far as the 80s go, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But 89, you can pick a show from 89 and you'll enjoy it. It's just they were really, everybody was feeling top of their game in 89, and it shows. You can hear it. So it's really, really good times.
And I'm just always attracted to listening to Brent in 89 because, 89 was it. That was the swan song. It was the last year.
Yeah.
Without a net dedicated to him. He was so amazing and so talented and in so much pain at the same time that it's so bittersweet, where so much pain comes so much talent and raw energy and feelings.
And you see that a lot, and it's a shame that that he was feeling the way he was feeling. It's a shame that he turned to heroin and whatever else he turned to. I know he was a heavy drinker, but it seems to me that heroin maybe is what it all comes back to, and it's a shame that's what it ends up. there's no good way out of that. I've got several friends that I've lost over the years directly to heroin, and I mean, you just got to say, fuck heroin. It's a shame, and there's no such thing as an old junkie. I think William Burroughs said that, and it's true. You know, you see so many people and they shine for a while on it. You gotta give them that. But you know, Brent, and then eventually Jerry. There's definitely a big connection there with his love affair with heroin over the years. It just kind of wore him down. And same thing with Brent, and which was just such a shock when we lost Brent. It felt like the end of an era there in '90. When we lost him, it just seemed like the world stopped for a minute.
It really did. I remember the exact moment. Well, they call it chasing the dragon, and again, if you're chasing a dragon, at the end of the day, the dragon always gets you.
It's gonna get you sooner or later, and it does to everybody. It really is, and it's too bad. And hopefully, hopefully anybody out there that is going down that road can get off that road, because it obviously never turns out well, never.
No, and last thing I'll say on it, what's interesting about looking at the two of them and thinking about it right now, I mean, you have Brett, who died of an immediate reaction, and you have Jerry, who ultimately, time of death was not that. To your point, it just broke him down. I mean, there was so many other things. You become vulnerable too. So if the thunder don't get you, then the lightning will, right? I mean, eventually,
right, exactly, slowly or quickly.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's an OD, or you've worn yourself down. So
you just wear out.
Glaring examples of how it goes. But anyways, well, I think it's important to talk about this. But let's get back to the shows. We want to talk about. You had mentioned that a show that we were going to play was Pittsburg, and I want to say briefly, it's 4/2/89. So now we've gone from Dave's 18th birthday to my 16th birthday, and I was not in Pittsburgh at all, but I love when I look down at my playlist when I'm playing Spotify and I see this show is up, because, it's your birthday, it's special, and there were some awesome songs from that show that are, so tell me a little bit about that show, because you were there, so I want to hear about it.
Yeah, it was another spring tour, that they were doing 2 nights in Pittsburgh at the Igloo that year in '89, and so this was the opening night, and it was just the lot before the show was just humming, and the show from start to finish it's just really peppy, some really good stuff in there, but the Shakedown just. Pretty much every time I listen to the Shakedown, they reach this peak in the jam in the middle of this Shakedown that just it's one of those things that you wish somebody would come up to you and say, "I've never listened to the Grateful Dead. Give me a song to listen to," And this is one of those that in my mind, in that little fantasy of somebody asking me that question,
the game changer.
Listen to this Shakedown through headphones and just turn it up real loud, because it's undeniable. This is what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, it's a game changer, and actually within my little Grateful Dead playlist, it is the Shakedown that I have selected from that show. So we're on the same page, my friend. It's the Shakedown.
So good.
It has the purple album on the Spotify. It's like a hot pinky purple, and it comes across as 4/2/89, and it's like, Shakedown Street, that was my birthday, woohoo!
Good stuff.
Well, everyone, let's go in and do a little dance into some Shakedown. I don't think I'm going to do the whole song just per earlier for efforts of time, but I do have a unedited music companion onto the website. So please, if you get shorted on your Shakedown, download and listen to that next, because I
listen to the whole show.
Listen to the whole thing, man.
Hell
all right, well, let's see what's shaking on Shakedown Street, and then we will be back for a final pick. All right, enjoy.
That's 'cause it's midnight, dark of the moon side. Maybe the darkness from your eye. 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 All you got is dark eyes. Nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the hardest town. Trouble this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. You see this town clear through. You can never tell. Nothing here that can interest you. You can never tell. It's not because you missed it. All the things that we had to start. Maybe you had too much to pay. 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 Just double played your part. Start shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Trouble this town ain't got no heart. Just kind of hold around. Cause I wanna say, you can never tell. I recall your diaries when it crackled like a thunderclap. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. I can hear it beat out loud. Shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Tell me this shaking on Shakedown Street. Tell me the heart of town. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around, poke around, poke around. Nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Nothing shaking on Shakedown Street used to be the heart of town. Terminus town ain't got no heart, got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Terminus town ain't got no heart, just gotta poke around. Poke around, poke around. Terminus town ain't got no heart, just gotta poke around. Terminus town ain't got no heart.
Well, I am tapping my foot just thinking about listening to that Shakedown Street, and yeah, that's a favorite. That's
right.
so
Who
good.
doesn't like a good shakedown?
It's the best. I mean, I'm all about the upbeat dancing concert songs, and that one is it's the greatest. I have a Shakedown Street sign in my kitchen. You know, the green sign, the Shakedown Street.
Yeah.
So I get to look at it every day. Yeah, no, I have love. So
it was a good fun. The lot scene after that show was just as good as before, but a great 2 nights in Pittsburgh that year. So that's great.
Well, so we have some road trips. I want to talk a little bit of road trip because while you were cruising around the East Coast, you made it west. So
I stabbed west a few times. Yeah. The Vegas story actually starts out at about 2 a.m. 2 nights before the show, something like that, in Columbus, Ohio. We're all out seeing some band. And a buddy of mine comes to me and says, "Hey, Carlos Santana opening up for the Dead in Las Vegas, night after next. We got to get in the car in the morning and drive straight there because we're doing this." And so we went home, shower, change, get some clothes together, get in the car, and straight through. Just epic road trip. I mean, classic. Just
how many
crazy.
takes in the car?
There was 3 of us in a Astro van, and I forget what happened first. I want to say we hit a tornado first somewhere in Kansas, which I've actually seen videotape of on YouTube. So we, like, middle of the night, got to get out of the car. We got to get up under this bridge because there's a tornado going right over top of us. So that happened, and then it was later that night, on down the road, that the cops pulled us over. Obviously recognized us as dirty hippies, and so we get all lined up out in front of the car so that they can search the car for the drugs they know we have, which we did. I mean, there was at least 3 illegal substances in that vehicle that I know of, and they searched, and it came back out to us in front of the car, and we're thinking, okay, this is the end of our road trip. We're going to finish it in a jail in Kansas, but found nothing.
Wow.
And sent us on our way on this harrowing road trip, and so it turns out those 2 slowdowns ran us a little late for the first night. So we were at least in the lot for the first night in Vegas that year, and obviously listened to the show from outside, and then got in for the second night, which good stuff. I mean, you can't deny it. Carlos Santana just is so great on his own. But opening up for the Dead, I mean, forget about it. It's awesome, you know. And you know he's going to come out and do a song with them because it's Santana and they're the Dead, and I mean they're going to have them come out. So good times, great trip. We got lucky as hell, and just kind of par for the course of the history of touring with the Grateful Dead. You know, it's just things work out.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big fan of the word serendipity, and you know, I feel like anything surrounding Dead shows and trips and things, you end up experiencing this like magical serendipity that touches you in such an obvious way that you don't in other times in your life. You know, like you end up seeing that person, you know, in the parking lot, and then you find yourself dancing next to them, and then you find yourself at the end checking about the show, and then you never see them again, right? You never see, like you'll both be at the same show the next night, and you'll never see those fucking people ever again. But at the time, they were the ones that like smoked you out and shared their food. You know, like
that guy passed me a really good doobie, right?
Yeah, you know, and like dance with them, you have the greatest time, and then like you know, I guess you see them again, but more often than not, I feel like it's just like that. There's like just this little magic spirit that follows you around, and I was lucky enough to go see Bobby a couple weeks ago at the Cap, and I swear to God, the same shit was happening, you know, like 2 weeks ago at the Cap. Like the people we met for a drink before.
It follows them. It really does.
It's insane. Like you meet them before and you see them in, and then they're dancing in front of you, and then at the very end you're standing on the sidewalk. That person you had the drink with before, and you're like, "How was the show?" And like, I mean, you know, it's so cool. It's just that the universe just plays its hand right to you, and it doesn't happen
it's
at
really
the rest
cool.
of life.
And it makes me wonder how many folks out there on Twitter are, you know, you get the feeling from some people that were in the same area, like you and I, we're in the same kind of era, that you're like, have I ever been standing in line next to you for a grilled cheese sandwich in the lot after a show? I bet I have. You know, or did I buy an import beer from your cooler one time, or you know, just those little things. That you know, there's people out there that you knew that you forgot about, or whatever. But there's still a good crew of people out there, and you know, we are everywhere.
We are everywhere, and whether you knew them or didn't know them, like they made their imprint on you, and you made theirs, and it's just all part of the magic, all part of the experiences, and it's
exactly
so cool. This show I'm excited to play because I actually had this show from the first podcast. My dear friend Wendy, who was my girlfriend who gave me the idea to start a project in the first place and was my guinea pig. She was my first guest, and she's, you know, I had to kind of, you know, really say, come on, you got to go on and do this. And she went down to Las Vegas with Lamore, who is my other good friend who created the beautiful Stranger Stopping Strangers logo. Amazing artist.
Yeah, that's nice.
The two of them, they were at this show, and it was Wendy's 18th birthday. So the party rolls along with the birthdays. And
birthday theme.
Birthday theme. So this is on April 28th, 1991. So your road trip, Wendy and Lamore's road trip, Santana, Las Vegas. I mean, I'm like picturing confetti and balloons and just, you know, everything you would conjure up with the word party, you know, the slot machines and, you know, all going on. So
there was no bedtime.
And obviously, so the song we're playing is Go.
Deal.
Yes.
Of course. Very Vegas, apropos right? for the gambling city. Lost Wages.
Lost Wages. I love this song. This is a song I've had like a new renaissance with. I mean, I don't know if I always loved the song back in the day, but the song is so meaningful as you get older, you know? It's the lyrics really resonate.
Right on. Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, well, everybody enjoy listening to Deal, and then we'll be back for a little goodbye. So check it out. Enjoy. Don't let that deal go down.
Sometimes wondering what love overdue. You and me never spent some time just wondering what to choose. But sure, watch each other play it through. Wait till that deal go down. Don't let that deal go down. Wait till that deal go down. Don't let that deal go down. Wait till that deal go down. Don't let that deal go down. Wait till that deal go down. Don't let that deal go down.
So we are going to wrap it up from our last song, listening to Deal in Las Vegas. And Dave, thank you so much for coming on to Stranger Stopping Strangers and being my guest. I had so much fun meeting you. You know, we chatted before, and this was so fun. And I can't wait for everyone to hear your story, because it's an awesome one.
Absolutely, my pleasure entirely. It's really good to talk about this stuff and reminisce and even look forward. You know, I mean, there's more Dead and Company coming. We've got Bobby out touring. I mean, they're still busy out there, and so these magic moments are still happening these days.
Absolutely. You think there's gonna be some New Year's shows? I've heard some buzz about that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Bobby's totally leaving it open for a lot of stuff coming down the road, and so they've got to. It's almost like Halloween and the Grateful Dead go together, like peanut butter and jelly, and New Year's and the Grateful Dead are exactly the same way. I mean, it's just they go hand in hand historically, and I think people expect the New Year's thing.
Well, if anyone at the Dead and Company, if Bobby, anyone's listening, I would like to put a request in for a classic San Francisco New Year's Eve, because I will be home visiting my family with my family, and that's it. That'll make 2016 and kick off 2017. So for anybody who's in charge that's listening to Strangers Stopping Strangers, please make it happen. Yeah, make it happen. I want to ring in the new year in San Francisco with some music. So it's out there in the universe. So if it happens, then everyone can go back to this podcast and say that I conjured it up. Yeah, that's it.
Get the ball rolling.
Put it out in the universe. Yeah, no reason to just keep those hopes and prayers to myself. I'm going to speak them out loud. So New Year's Eve, San Francisco, everyone. That's where my wish to the universe is going out. So right on. Well, we will be in touch. Hopefully, we'll meet one day. And if not, we are like daily in touch as Twitter friends, and that makes me happy. So
we're out there every day, pounding the pavement to make people smile.
Absolutely. Nothing left to do but smile, 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 everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Stace.
Thanks. Bye.
Right. Take care.
Just a shake of hands. Everybody's playing in the heart of gold band, heart of gold band.